Hey guys, Matthew here from The Who Addicts, bringing you guys another review for Doctor Who Series 10. Today myself, Liv and Jacob are sitting down and talking everything Empress of Mars. So sit back and enjoy. So then, here we are with another review for Doctor Who Series 10. Today we are looking at, of course, the return of the Ice Warriors, the return of Mark Gatiss, Empress of Mars. Not the Empress of Mars.
Just Empress.
Awkwardly, Empress of Mars. So, who wants to start with their thoughts on this story?
I
don't know my thoughts. Literally, I have no clue of my true thoughts of this episode.
Why is that?
I don't know. It was like, I don't know.
You didn't hate it then?
No.
Well,
but you didn't love it either.
I didn't hate it. So, that's good, I presume.
That is a good start, yeah. Well, I'm kind of in the same position. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. And it was a good, intriguing episode, I guess. But I think it was one of the weaker episodes, maybe, of New Who. But also one of the stronger episodes that Gatiss have written. So I'm a bit undecided about how much I enjoyed the episode. But I definitely didn't hate it, but at the same time I didn't love it either. What do you think, Matthew?
Well, it was kind of the vintage Mark Gatiss story.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good enough, enjoyable, could sit down and watch it. Wasn't bad, but equally didn't blow me away either. It was just there, really. You know, when looking at my Series 10 box set in future, I'll look along at the episodes and I'll look at Empress of Mars and I'll sort of think, yeah, it was there.
It's all right.
Wasn't bad, wasn't great. I mean, I think it says a lot that, obviously, before we record our reviews, we all obviously write a written review with our notes, etc. And out of all the episodes this series, I don't know about you, Liv, don't know about you, Jacob, but I've got the least amount of notes.
Have you looked at my page? There's like a few lines, and that's it.
Do you think that's maybe a better thing? Because obviously we've just come out of the 3-part of the monks, and that was quite plot heavy, and it required quite a lot of concentration and lots of different elements adding to it. But I feel like, actually, if anything, it was actually quite a bit of a strength that this was kind of back to basics, and it was quite easy to understand.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
It is a good point.
Good point. I mean, of course, for any viewer who's maybe jumped back on board for Series 10, or as a brand new viewer, obviously the first 5 episodes are very accessible, and that's what we've wanted from New Who, especially in recent series, is for it to be more accessible. And then obviously with the 3-parter, you were kind of thrown into a different sort of water where you were a little bit unsure about what was going on. You really did have to get it. Went a bit timey-wimey. So yeah, it was good that we went back to quite an easygoing story, but I wouldn't say the fact that it was easygoing is what made it a little bit average. I think for me, it was a bit contained. It was set in one area. It didn't really go anywhere. It didn't go into the next gear.
Yeah.
I think it needed. I mean, I think it had a great story.
I do.
Underneath, but I think, like I say, it was very similar to the likes of Hungry Earth, Cold Blood, and what kind of puts that above this one, in terms of, you know, the Doctor stuck between 2 races, and you know, it was so very similar. Is that was a 2-parter. A lot more things were sort of expanded on, and with this, it felt very 2-dimensional. I wouldn't say it was the fact that it was easygoing's a bad thing. It's just that it didn't really take off into that next gear. It's hard to explain, really.
It is. Like you said, it only was kind of in that like cave on Mars, but just want to talk about that pre-title sequence with the whole NASA thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Random, I thought.
It did seem a bit odd, didn't it?
Well, yeah, it was odd, but I kind of liked it.
Like I kind of liked it, but it just it was just weird how we just went from that, and I would have kind of liked it if that was the future Dr. Bill and Nardole coming back to see the discovery of their message, not because that was them in the past, and then they then went to Mars after to find how the message was created, which I feel like it would have been better if they went there to NASA as a result at the end, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, it was a bit of a random opening, but I kind of found it funny. You know, the way the Doctor joined him in the countdown, and Bill jumped in, and Nardole came in out of nowhere. It's just that really funny situation that you're in such a serious place like NASA, and then them three waltz in, joke around like it's just nothing to them.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked it. Of course, they land on Mars. Great setting. Always liked Mars. Waters of Mars. And then, I don't know, was this explained? Why did the TARDIS suddenly just decide to bugger off?
That's what I have an issue with.
Was it to get rid of Nardole? Because, I know I'm jumping ahead slightly, I think Nardole would have been a well-needed addition to this story, actually.
I do as well.
I really agree. And I myself would never, ever believe I was saying this at the start of Series 10.
Yeah. I feel like he would have added something to the story.
This episode needed Nardole.
Wow, I can't believe I'm hearing them words.
You needed Nardole.
And needed Nardole.
Needed Nardole.
We're desperate.
Yeah, why did the TARDIS, bugger off? Because
I feel like it was just a convenient way for Mark Gatiss to just get rid of Nardole, so we didn't have to worry about him. But like we just said, I think Nardole would have been a good addition to add a bit more lightheartedness to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know it leads into Missy at the end, which we'll get to, but but yeah, I don't understand why Nardole needed to have been shoved out of the entire episode. Maybe it was a production thing, he couldn't film, or I don't know. There might have been deeper reasons that wasn't to do with the narrative itself.
Or maybe it was just a way to get Missy on board the TARDIS for some reason.
Yeah.
But even then, that was a bit random, but we'll get to that obviously later.
Yeah, I just thought that Nardole would have been a good addition, and it was a bit convenient that the TARDIS just...
It wasn't really explained either.
Buggered off. So yeah, they're on Mars basically, and they bump into the Victorians. And this was obviously a very random combination. Victorians on Mars, a bit like dinosaurs on a spaceship, really.
Oh God.
What were your thoughts
Not quite
on...
as bad.
Not quite as bad, no, but what are your thoughts on the Victorians on Mars, and how they got to Mars, and how all that was worked into the story?
I even with the explanation that was provided about why they were there, because they found a spaceship with Friday, our favourite Ice Warrior, it still felt really weird having these Victorian soldiers on Mars. I don't know about you, but... because normally something like that, something that's random, normally has an explanation that kind of satisfies me and be like, okay, that makes sense, I'm okay with that. But for some reason, even with the explanation, I just couldn't get my head around the fact as to why there are Victorian soldiers in a cave on Mars. Yeah,
it was a bit random. I mean, I don't understand why they were Victorian soldiers. I mean, I thought that might have been... weaved into the story in some way. I mean, it could have been any, travellers or whatever from the future on Mars. So them being Victorians, I mean, I guess it kind of worked with how one of them was nearly hung for being a coward and stuff like that. But it was a little bit strange, a little bit random. And what I will say is there were only 2 of the Victorian characters which I really cared about. And I guess they were the only 2 that you were meant to care about.
Yeah.
And that was it Catch Love and Godsaker?
Yeah. Weird names, but yeah.
I mean, they were the only 2 I cared about. I thought Catch Love was a horrible character who I did want to perish in the end. And I kind of liked Godsaker's character as well. That he was a coward and that they worked that into the ending with him obviously staying on Mars. So for me, the Victorians, they were random. 2 of them, I think, were... Well, they added something to the story. The others were just kind of there for show, really, weren't they?
Yeah, I think, actually, we've got a credit mark for this, because in some cases, guest characters aren't really, full stop used in any way, but he actually intertwined them quite well into the plot. Obviously, we had those two main ones and not the other ones. The other Victorian soldiers didn't really play a huge part, but I think having those two soldiers actually added something which we don't normally get from guest characters.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, a lot of them are sort of forgettable or annoying, but to be fully invested in them in such a short space of time, I think was very good.
I do.
Yeah.
Leads us on to the Ice Warriors, the Empress as well. Really liked the scene where we had the two Victorian soldiers, and obviously they were taken over by greed and were trying to take stuff for themselves, and obviously it woke the Empress up. And for me, I think the Empress was a good idea. I think how she was introduced was really good. She looked great, but as the episode went on, the impact of her kind of diminished a little bit. I kind of went from thinking that she was quite an awesome new villain that we've never seen before to at the end just being another sort of Ice Warrior. What do you guys think?
I kind of disagree.
Really?
Yeah. I liked her, and it worked very well with her.
I'm gonna go with Liv as well. I think I liked her all the same throughout the episode. Really, I think she added something new that we haven't really seen before. Like there's a leader behind the Ice Warriors, and it kind of was nice to have a bit of a difference to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, she was different. I don't know. Maybe she just didn't have that presence that I was expecting. I mean, the way she was introduced and everything was really good. And maybe I wanted to see her sort of get her hands dirty a little bit more. Maybe attack, kill a few more soldiers than she did. I'm not really too sure. But yeah, she was good. She just kind of, for me anyway, she just became another Ice Warrior.
I do like though how obviously we had the conflict between the Ice Warriors and the Victorian soldiers, but we also had a bit of conflict between Friday. I can't call him that. Friday, the Ice Warrior, and the Empress. I thought that was quite interesting to have them both kind of because Friday, our favourite Ice Warrior, was saying, look, these guys saved you and has allowed us to live, when she just kind of wanted to kill everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really interesting dynamic actually, because I remember us saying in the preview when we saw a clip of Friday, giving them like tea and serving them and stuff. I got like horrible nightmares from Victory of the Daleks and stuff, and I kind of thought, God, please don't make the Ice Warriors a laughingstock. Please make it so that Friday was scheming, or you had a plan. And not only was he planning to wake up the Empress and everything like that and get his people back, it also linked into why they were on Mars in the first place, with his ship and him wanting to get help to get home and stuff like that. So I really liked that. I thought they made really good use of him. And obviously, it led into the Empress. So I like that. I like that idea. The other Ice Warriors, I think, were just kind of there, just to look menacing. But I think they were pretty good in this. I know I could save this question till the end of the. Actually, I'll save this question till the end of the review. I'll leave you hanging on that one. What about the way that the Ice Warriors killed?
Oh no!
Because we've just disagreed on one thing, and I have a feeling we're going to disagree on another, because the way that they were shooting and killing people, I actually grew to like quite a bit.
I didn't.
I just thought it was different. And I know they bounced around a little bit, which was silly. I'd rather them just flopped. But the way seeing their bodies sort of tied up and contorted, and all the bones must have been... I kind of found it a little bit like, that is a little bit weird. It's different. It's better than being burst into dust or whatever.
I was going to disagree with you, but I do actually...
Why watching it?
I did think...
All I visioned was a bouncy ball, and that is never good.
As much as I did think the bouncy ball thing was just weird, I do think that actually, Matthew said, it did work with like the bodies being all like crumpled up. I just wish it didn't bounce. Like Nardole referred to basic physics, so why do human bodies bounce? It's not a thing that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a little bit weird seeing them bounce around. That's my only real issue. But I just, it was different. And I like things that are different. I mean, Liv, you're giving me one hell of a face right now.
I know, because they come on. All they looked was like bouncy balls. It wasn't great.
That's one hell of an
Apart
innuendo
from the
right there.
bounciness, did you like? did you like it? The way that they killed.
Yeah, but what would have been better if they never bounced?
Okay,
And-
so
and-
top tip for whoever writes the Ice Warriors next: don't make them bounce.
Honestly, if no one had actually read the title of this video, the last 30 seconds could have been taken sort of
I know,
context.
it could have been.
Anyway,
If they never bounced.
moving on from bouncing Ice Warriors. I've not, and this kind of says, I think this is where I kind of drifted a little bit. I mean, we had the introduction of all these characters. Obviously, the Empress woke up and all that, and there was a little bit of a disagreement between her and Friday. And then I think the next sort of 10, 15 minutes before the end, it just kind of, I was going through the motions. Nothing really happened. I mean, I know when we were rewatching it, I got up to do a few things because I knew I wasn't gonna miss much. So I think in between that moment and when they started to actually fight, nothing really happened. And when they did, when they finally did sort of clash, I woke up a little bit. I think when they started fighting, I think it was a much needed boost for the episode because all the interesting stuff had kind of it'd been done. We kind of got what was going on and the whole dilemma, and the Doctor was stuck in the middle. And then I was just kind of going through the motions until the end. And I think that's where this episode kind of falls into being a little bit average.
Yeah.
Nothing sort of happened.
See, that's an issue, isn't it? Because
It is.
like as much as stuff happens, I think part of my problem is that as much as the plot was good, I think it was stretched too much over the episode. I feel like it's a good plot, but it kind of struggled to fill up the episode without it becoming too long-winded.
Yeah, it did. Like I say, there was a good story there, but there was almost not enough content
Yeah.
in the story. You know, I mean, Hungry Earth, Cold Blood, again, I keep making this comparison, but they sort of had the Doctor on one side, and I think Amy was on the other. And I would have liked it if maybe Bill had been taken hostage by one of the Ice Warriors, and that would have put the Doctor in a little bit more of a difficult position. And I think, apart from the very beginning, the Doctor and Bill were never really separated.
No,
They didn't really do anything. They weren't pushed into a really difficult situation. And I
Right.
would have maybe liked it if they'd have done something like that. Because considering we had one side against the other, I mean, again, it kind of reminds me of the Doctor's daughter, with the Hath on one side and the humans on the other. They made a way for that to stretch out because someone got split off and the others were stuck here. And I think they could have done that in this. They could have had Bill taken by one of the Ice Warriors, I mean, the Empress had a weird sort of obsession with Bill.
Yeah,
And
that was weird as well. Just because
Yeah.
she's a female, she's like, oh, female.
Exactly. So I thought maybe they could have taken Bill and kept her hostage so that the Doctor was in a bit more of a position, whereas if he maybe did something to annoy the Ice Warriors, Bill's life would then be at risk. And
Yeah.
maybe that's another point. Did the Doctor and Bill ever really feel like they were in that much danger?
Not
this?
really.
Was there a threat? Was there...
Not really at all.
It was
No
more the
threat.
Victorian soldiers that were more of a threat, wasn't it?
Yeah. Would you say that maybe... And this is just me trying to solve why this episode has kind of fell into this place. Is it because the Doctor and Bill were just passengers in this story? Is that a good way to describe them?
I
Passengers.
guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't really do anything.
No.
And that's a shame, really, because, again, Capaldi, I think his performance was great, as
Yeah.
was
It was
Bill's,
incredible,
but
yeah.
they didn't have much to do.
Too much
And
to
that's
do.
where Nardole could have
Fitted in.
came in.
Shall we talk about Missy?
Well, there's a few things I think we'll leave Missy till the very, very end.
Fair enough.
Because what I will say is this episode did pick up, actually, when Catch Love, he took the Empress he sort of tried to take her hostage.
Yeah.
Just when
Failed.
the Doctor was about to make peace. And then obviously Godsaker shot him from behind. What were your thoughts on that ending? Because I thought it was quite a good ending. It was a bit of a pick-me-up, actually.
It was a good ending. I liked it.
Yeah, what about you,
It
Jacob?
worked well.
I mean, I did like it. There's no doubt about that. But I feel like, because obviously there was the scene where Catchlove like took over and revealed that that other Godsaker guy was a coward and whatever. But it seemed like all the Victorian soldiers didn't really care who was in power and what was going on, because they flipped from having that Catchlove in power over them, and then suddenly he got killed, and they didn't really seem to like care. And then all of a sudden they just kind of were happy again that this the other guy was in power again. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, it seemed like they just kind of went with it, and they didn't really give a damn about who was their leader.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't seem like actual people, like actual characters, did they?
No.
I guess they were there for display,
Yeah.
Basically.
in a way.
But
And
apart
what
from that, I did like how he got killed. Although he got shot through that like spacesuit, which looked like really hard metal, but
yeah,
it's bulletproof as well.
and the way he sort of just slowly fell was a little bit... I thought they could have maybe done that a bit better.
It's probably the most comedic element of the episode.
Also, what happened to the other soldiers? Because what else I liked is that Godsaker, he became a part of. He stayed to help.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I liked his motives in the way
That
he
was
was
nice.
saying, you know, I should have been killed already, I should have been hung. So this is me kind of paying, you know, for what I
Doing
did.
something
And
good
also,
with my
yeah,
life.
and I kind of liked that. That was a good,
Yeah.
a nice way for his character to sort of end. But what happened with the others? What happened with the other Victorian soldiers? Were they
Don't ask me.
were-
I don't know.
were they sent back home? Surely they'll go back knowing what's happened. They
Did
know
they
that
go
there's...
with the Ice Warriors?
Yeah, that was sort of left open-ended.
Yeah.
And-
Not explained very well.
I know people will say, well, why does it matter? But I kind of want to
It
know
wasn't
what
very
happened to them.
obvious what was going on with them.
No,
No.
it didn't. There was also, worth pointing out, a lovely cameo. And this was the cameo that no one expected from Alpha Centauri, a character from the Peladon
Doctor,
two-parter
yeah.
back in 1973. Just a nice little... And that sort of... It rounds it, because of course that was... The Peladon was an Ice Warrior two-parter. Kind of a little bit like the Great Intelligence and Web of Fear in the Snowmen, that sort of connection. So I really like that. That was a cool little throwback.
I like that.
And from one cameo to another, Missy
Missy.
was in the end of this episode. Liv, you're nodding your head. Why are you nodding your head?
Yet again, she's been randomly placed in a story which doesn't suit her in.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
all of Series 10, Missy has been randomly placed in episodes where she don't fit.
Yeah.
I feel like she's... Well, they're trying to make her become the Ark and her becoming good. And it was a great scene when the Doctor walked into the TARDIS and he was just like the expression that he pulled when he saw Missy was there. Like, he was so mad with Nardole. But I feel like that was actually a really good scene. But like you said, it was a bit weird how it was kind of forced that the TARDIS was sent back and Nardole asked for her help. And I don't understand how I don't understand how she really fit into the story at all, really.
I mean, I really liked the scene. I think that they brought back her theme from Series 8.
Oh, I did like that as
So
well, yeah.
I really liked how they shot it.
I did.
I like how it was directed. I thought, yeah, I mean, it was a bit convenient that the TARDIS happened to bugger off and she happened to... Well, what's the reasoning? Missy controlled the TARDIS. I don't know, but yeah, it was nicely done. And I remember there was a quote that we spoke about in the preview that this episode was gonna progress the arc, was gonna push the arc on, the story arc, and keep it going. And I'm struggling to see what the arc is. Is that it? That Missy is trying to become good?
I don't know if it's the cliffhanger that she like. I don't know about you, but it seemed really weird the way she was like staring at the Doctor, saying, "Are you alright?" Like, I don't understand why she thinks the Doctor isn't okay. for some reason.
Yeah, and
Like,
then
what is
obviously,
that? What's the reason for that?
and she's not in the next episode. From
No.
what I know, she's not in the next time trailer. So, is next week gonna just start like, oh, she's back in the vault? She just went back in the vault. What is she like? What is she doing? What's she trying to achieve? I mean, I know there is a bit of intrigue there, which is good, but at the same time, I'm a little bit confused because, like you say, Liv, it's just randomly placed. And if it all comes together and means something, then fantastic. But I don't know.
Hopefully it's not like the monks. It just comes to nothing.
Yeah.
I think that was Missy in Series 10. The best way is they should have done it was was to have an episode all about her and the vault.
Because that's what I'm worried that we're not even going to get that. Because also we know we've got the Mundasian Cybermen in the finale, and we've got John Sim.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to get worried that only 2 episodes to explore all of that might be a bit too much. But
yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. We've seen it many a time, haven't we?
A gigantic task to do.
When too much has been set up and there's not enough time to round it all off. Lie of the Land's a good example.
Yeah.
I'm really starting to get scared of the finale now.
I wouldn't say I'm worried about the finale. I mean, there's still a lot going on. I mean, yeah, I'm worried that there might be a lot. They might have bit off more than they can chew in terms of what how they're gonna round it all off. Like I say, I hope the Missy arc comes to something, and I have a feeling she's the one who's going to die.
Yeah.
It's just, it's been very randomly placed. And I'll tell you one thing that did pop into my mind when watching this is they could have left the vault reveal up until now.
Yeah.
They could have.
They could have not even mentioned the vault until, like, later episodes. Yeah,
I mean, in Extremis, her part in that was very, very disjointed from the episode.
And random.
Didn't necessarily need to be revealed in that. She was only in Lie of the Land to tell the Doctor what to do, but he didn't end up taking her advice anyway. So really, they could have left it so that Nardole desperately needs help. Like they could have made it seem like the Doctor and Bill were in so much danger on Mars that Nardole had to get back there. Had to desperately get back there because they were trapped, they were in trouble. And he then had to go to the vault. And we're all like, oh my god, he's gone to the vault. Who's he going to get for help? And then at the very end, we don't see him open the vault or anything. That's when we go into the TARDIS and Missy appears.
That would have been great.
The whole Missy thing would have still probably been a little bit anticlimactic because no matter how they had done it, I think her being in the vault was a bit predictable anyway. But
it would have been a better reveal.
Yeah, that would have taken away her disjointed appearance in Extremis and her wasted appearance in Lie of the Land.
Yeah. In some ways, I do think that this episode would have benefited with more of Missy and Nardole, if that makes sense. Because I feel like actually it would have been nice to see like Nardole go into the vault and then get Missy, and then Missy explain to Nardole about the TARDIS and whatever. I feel like that would kind of break up the plot on Mars a bit more as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, because we knew Missy was in there anyway.
Yeah.
So why try and leave, not show her until the end? Why make it feel like it's a big shock when we know it's her? Like we say, there was a small spell of this episode where it did start to go through the motions a little bit. That's when they could have, maybe brought this episode up, because like I say, it was contained into this one area, and it didn't really go anywhere. It didn't take off into another gear, and that's what maybe kind of made it a bit boring.
Yeah.
So breaking it up into something else might have worked. Anything else you want to mention, post-production wise, as in music and direction and anything else? I mean, for me, one point I'll make is that I found the music a little bit overbearing at times.
Yeah,
wow.
I think that was probably more of the editing side of things, because I thought the music was actually really good, especially when they used Mrs. Theme again, and
the end with
The other music was good, but I feel like I'm with you in that they probably had it a bit too loud, and sometimes the dialogue was more difficult to hear.
Yeah, direction-wise though, solid enough.
The initial CGI of the TARDIS flying towards Mars was not great, but that's just nitpicking now, so I'm going to stop.
Yeah. That's just nitpicking. So anything else worth noting, or do you want to jump into our conclusions?
conclusions?
Yeah.
Who wants to go first? I mean, Liv, you've hardly got a conclusion, so we might as well get yours out the way. I mean, if you've even made your mind up on the episode yet.
Oh, God.
Oh.
First time in ever for an episode of Doctor Who, I have really struggled to make a bloody conclusion. And that is never like me at all. It's a difficult episode because on one hand it was enjoyable and I did like it, but and then also on the other hand, it in places it was boring, and after a while, the story and the characters weren't like going anywhere further forward than they were, and I really thought the third Doctor reference was lovely and worked well within the episode. And
not bad at all.
Victorian soldiers worked, and the Empress, I really did like her.
Okay.
I did really like her, but the episode was boring, so I'm gonna rate it the same as last week, a 6.
Yeah, not bad rating, to be honest.
Wasn't bad. I didn't hate it, but it was just slightly boring.
Yeah. What about you, Jacob?
Well, without a doubt, Empress of Mars was better than I expected, especially considering the past episodes that Mark Gatiss has written. But it did still lack in some places. It felt nice to be back to a single standalone story episode, which was fairly easy to follow, and especially with the return of the iconic Ice Warriors, with the addition of Iraxa the Empress, who I thought was actually quite cool. The plot did have its flaws and was perhaps dragged out a bit too much for my liking, but I did still enjoy the episode. However, the concept of Victorian soldiers on Mars still doesn't sit quite right with me, and it felt really odd even with the explanation that was provided. The way the soldiers became bouncy balls was unintentionally hilarious, I feel like, rather than scary, which I presume it's meant to be. And I don't understand why the TARDIS flew itself away from Mars, other than to get Nardole out of the way. The acting from Peter, Pearl, and also the guest actors was actually really on point, and Catchlove was portrayed really well as the antagonist and made me dislike the character, but obviously in the best way possible. This is, without a doubt, one of Gatiss's stronger Doctor Who episodes, I think, but in comparison to the other stories we've seen in this series and throughout New Who, it's still pretty average. So I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Very interesting. I think we're all on a very similar track, similar ratings tonight. Yeah. So for me, Empress of Mars was a typical Gatiss story. Not bad, not great, but solid. It had a really good narrative at heart, but it struggled to get out of second gear and felt too contained at times. I thought the Victorian soldiers were a good addition, although the only two characters I was invested in was Godsaker and Catchlove. They were both great. I thought the Ice Warriors were okay too, although I did prefer their appearance in Cold War. I found the Empress a really interesting villain, but her impact kind of faded towards the end. The Doctor and Bill were solid, but didn't really stand out as much as they have in previous episodes, and I thought Nardole would have been a welcomed addition. Overall, Empress of Mars was a good story, not bad, not great, just good. It had all the ingredients to make a fantastic story, but unfortunately, it didn't really kick into that next gear, and was held back by how contained it was. Just like you, Liv, I'm going to go with a 6 out of 10.
Nice.
As I was saying earlier in the review, I did want to leave this question till the end, so I'm going to give it to both of you now. What's better, this or Cold War, and why?
Ooh, I'd say this. I don't know why, but I think I just prefer this one. I feel like, I mean, I haven't watched Cold War in years.
I haven't.
But I feel like I prefer this episode. What about you?
I don't know, Liv.
I literally can't remember anything from Cold War, so I've got no idea on that question, Matthew.
I would say Cold War.
Really?
Yeah. I just thought that the setting on a submarine was better. I think they explored more on the submarine than they did the entire of Mars.
True, yeah.
I think it reminds me of the impact Dalek had compared to other Dalek stories. I think that one Ice Warrior probably had more impact and was more scary than the Empress or any of the other Ice Warriors were in this. And I just found I think they were Russian soldiers a little bit more intriguing than the Victorian ones. I think they had certain factors that stood out a little bit more for me. So I would have said Cold War.
Interesting.
Fair enough.
But be interesting to see what the subs think in the comment section.
Yeah.
So yes, that is it. Our review of the Empress. Just Empress of Mars.
Just Empress.
Weird how we can go from an extremely sort of confusing and sort of complex review as Lie of the Land, where there's almost too much to go through, and yet we get to Empress of Mars where there's hardly anything to go through. But that's the nature of Doctor Who. So 6s and 6.5s all round. Solid, I think that's the word we can say. Solid, yeah. So we'll be back with our preview of episode 10. Wow.
10.
The return of Rona Munro. It's going to be fun. The Eaters of Light. That'll be up next week, but until then, thank you very much for listening to our review. So then guys, there you have it, our review of Empress of Mars. Please like this video if you've enjoyed it, and do subscribe to the Who Addicts for previews and reviews of every remaining episode of Doctor Who Series 10, as well as checking out our previous previews and reviews thus far. Do comment in the section below what you thought of the Empress of Mars 2, if you thought it was a great episode, if you thought it was a bad episode, or like us, you're kind of stuck in the middle. And as always, to follow us on all social media, go to our website where you can find links to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Snapchat. They are the best places to keep up to date on everything that's happening here on the Who Addicts. And we'll be back, as always, middle of next week for our preview of episode 10, The Eaters of Light. It's going to be very interesting, but until then, have a good week guys, and we'll see you next time.